Hey guys, it's day 51 of Devlog and welcome everybody to the stream. Fried movies, Siastic FN. It's good to see you guys. I don't know if you've made any comments in the chat before Fried movies. I don't think so, but I did respond to your comments the other day. Thank you for the kind words, etc. So, we've got an interesting one today, but first of all, right, where we left it last night. If you remember rightly, I was mucking around with our controller. Okay, now, we are going to come back to this, don't worry. Right? And I'm going to explain this to you, right? But anyway, so basically, I got it working. Okay, Fried movies, no worries. Hopefully I answered the questions well. Right, so we now have a target to test our bow and arrow, okay? And we now have a third person controller. Right? So I haven't finished it yet, but we have basically got a controller that's going to work for us, okay? So that is the stuff from last night that I finished off in the middle of the night. And my colleague was working on something else. Now, he isn't as an experienced programmer as I am, and that goes for basic programming and Unreal Engine, but he's the game level designer, right? He's more a graphics guy, so we're not going to criticize him for that, for sure, right? But anyway, so he had written this blueprint, and basically I'm going to show you what it does, or I'm going to show you what it should have done. So basically this is the intro to the game, right? So when you see this running, and I'm only going to play this once because basically we're going to rewrite all the code and we're going to get it Yeah, I haven't looked at that yet, Fried Movies. I'm going to look at that. I know that wasn't working yet, right? Right, so this thinks we have an infinite loop, and I know where it is, but it isn't an infinite loop. As I said, I was working on it last night, and I just took it so far, and then I just left it at that. That's for another day, that thing, right? But I know it's out of alignment, right? But there's a lot to do. It's to do with more than one thing, right? So, right, now here's the problem, and I have updated some of his code already, but I will explain the problem that he had and what this was supposed to do, right? Pretty much at the moment, yeah, full time, pretty much. Or at least, if I'm not, it feels like it. Right, so, the thing is, my colleague had this in his begin plate. Hang on a second though, I got this at the right size for you guys. Let's get it at the right size for you guys so it's easier to read. Right. Hi, Cassadell Gaming, good to see you, mate. So, the point was, he had this, right, but he didn't. He had to get all actors of class, right, but we just actually need to get the pawn and then basically set it to variable here. Now that's the first thing we're doing. Now the little mistake he made was he was running this code in event begin play, right, and the problem was that we've got about 6 of these self-discussions. Right, now what a self-discussion is basically the character will talk to themselves, right? So you'll get like a text box coming up. We've started a company, so we're doing Kickstarter and stuff, and then we're going to release on Steam. So hopefully in the end I'll get paid for it, but I won't get paid by an individual or a company. We will get paid by our own company out of what we make from the game, right? So anyway, so basically what this does is puts up a text box, right, with some narrative text on it, flavor text, right, and it's supposed to do it a number of times, right, and then it basically hands over control to the player, right? But the problem was that there was 6 of these in the level, right? And what they were doing was, if this code is still here, I believe it is, it was disabling input, right? It was enabling and disabling input. And very quickly, I realised that this was basically running like 6 times, which meant it was running every time for every single one of these blueprints, right? These actors in the game, which is fine because they're all in the game, right? But obviously, if they're all disabling input and enabling input against each other, then that's not going to work, which was causing the first problem, because basically what he was telling me was his issue was that even though he was disabling input, it wasn't. Now, what he didn't realise, and I quickly realised, was that in the pawn does a lot of things before it actually fires up enabling input, right? So basically it was going through loading all the stuff, loading all the multi-save stuff. It was showing like the screen coming out, screen getting bigger. It was putting up the widgets. It was doing a lot of stuff, right? And then, and only then, it was hitting this enable input, right? So basically this was cancelling out every single other of the self-discussion inputs, right? I quickly kind of knew this was happening and was proved right. So basically what I've done is I've created a is pawn ready at the very end. So this is going to basically say is pawn ready, right? And then we're going to enable input here. Now, I haven't found a better way of doing this, right? Because I don't think there is a better way of finding out when everything is loaded, right? Right, but I do know that this tells us that this has finished the begin play code, right? So the pawn is now ready. So we're setting this up here, okay? Now, this is where we're getting an error, so pay attention. So, just before we say pawn ready, Well, this isn't as easy as you think by the looks of it. Just before we say is ready, we enable input, right? So at this point, the player can hit a button and something will happen, right? Now, what we're actually doing is we've set up this, reset up the start of this self-discussion, right? Now, under normal circumstances, this won't, like, triggering this is just going to be like a trigger somewhere in the woods or somewhere in the cabin or blah blah blah, wherever, right? To automatically put up some flavor text, okay? But the thing about it is that this one is slightly different because this is the start of the game, right? And we basically want to lock the player in place till a sequence plays and everything's ready to go, okay? And that's why I did the is pawn ready, okay? And what I've done in here is I've set a new variable called disables player, right? So basically it's easy now for my colleague to just go in, find the blueprint and click disables player is true for the one that is the start, right? If it's not that, then it never disables the player. So basically the last time the player gets enabled by the pawn itself, it leaves it like that. So you can see the code here to do that, right? I'll show you that. So this is the first parts of things I was doing, right? So I'm just showing you some of the mistakes that my colleague made, which, you know, he's a level designer. He's, you know, mistakes are made. That's fine, fair enough, right? I'm not criticising him for that because basically it helped me because even though it wasn't quite working correctly, I got to see what he wanted, right? So I can now rebuild it for him and get it to do it, plus maybe give him a few different options, okay? So what we do is on begin play, we come in here, right? We say, does it disable the player? Right? Now, this is only going to be true if it's the very start, which is fine, right? And then what we're going to say is the pawn ready? Right? We don't want to run any code or disable anything until the pawn is complete, because we don't want the pawn to override when we disable the pawn, right? We want it to disable the pawn as a very first action. So what I was doing here was, and this is the part that's not working, I might need to turn this into a local variable, right? I think that's the problem. This is the thing that's causing us. Well, there's one thing anyway. We're going to have to get the player controller. So that's one goof. Right? Right, and we actually don't need this delay. Well, yeah, we're going to do this delay so it isn't like running 60 times a second, right? They're not. I'm talking about a local variable to the blueprint. They're not hidden from other variables, right? It's just a kind of normal programming. In Unreal Engine, a local variable isn't even that. Local variables are basically variables that are only available in functions and stuff. right? So it's only functions that can see the local variables, but it's kind of legacy from my programming other languages, right? So we're going to say if the pawn is ready and that's not true, we're going to loop. This is a while loop, right? This only loops when this condition is true. Normally, in computer languages, right, a local variable isn't exposed to other blueprints, to other functions and other classes, right? So that would be called a local variable, right? A global variable would be when you namespace it or whatever in C++. Don't know the terminology in C++, but anyway, if you make it so that everything can see it, then that would be considered a global variable, right? In blueprints, it's the terminology kind of doesn't make sense. It's I don't know the technicalities of it, but in blueprints, it probably cleans it up so that you're only using that variable only remains in memory for a very short time if it's done in a function. I'm guessing. No, the reason. Okay, let me explain this, right? Normally, when you talk about when in a normal language, right? Yes, public and private are in C++ and in most other languages, right? But public and private kind of don't exist in blueprints, right? So when I said private there, it's probably the wrong terminology, right? I'm talking private as in within this blueprint, right? Now, as I said, if you just create a variable in the normal way over here, right, it's not really private because if you reference this blueprint, you'll be able to see it, right? So it's not really private. It's just what I'm trying to say is it's local to this blueprint and I'm just going to use it as what would be considered a private, right? Or a local variable. Right? Now, as I said, in blueprints, the local variables are actually in functions, right? So, like, if I created a function, this doesn't have any, so, yeah, it does, right? Well, that's a custom event, but you'll notice if you go, it doesn't, right? Can I create a, no. So I would have to create a function, right? Okay, let's create a function. What the heck? Right. So we've got a new function here, right? And if I go down here, you'll notice it's now got the option to say local variables, right? Now that's the only, in blueprints, this is a local variable, right? But in every other language, you know, that isn't a visual language, then it's just a different terminology, okay? So don't get hung up on it. It was just, It's just a little quirk of it's just a little quirky blueprints, right? And the terminology that they use or don't use, okay? So don't worry about it. So, next things next. This is saying that it is an infinite loop, right? But it's actually not. I wonder if it still gives us this error. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. What I'm thinking here is, well, you're about to find out, because this is the first part when you meet her, right? But we're going to have to get this blueprint working before we do. Okay, so the problem here was, right, that it was playing this sound, right? This was in, all of this stuff was in the begin play, right? And as I said, simple mistakes to make. Now the problem was, he was playing a sound, right? But that doesn't make sense, because why would you play a sound on begin play? Well, you could, but it doesn't make sense on a trigger, right? So basically, that can go. Okay, this would be more to do with on this, right? Which is the overlap. Now, we might need to do something different here, because that overlap is probably not going to trigger. Okay? Now, what he's doing here is, what he was doing was, this wasn't, I don't actually know what this is. We're going to rewrite most of this anyway, so I'm not going to worry about too much. Right? Yeah, you can join my personal Discord, link in the description. And, well, both the Discord servers. I'm pretty sure we'll answer questions as well on the other one. Right, so what I'm going to do at this point is, I'm going to actually do that. And I'm going to see if that actually fixes our loopy problem. Right, because I think it was because there was nothing in the completed. Maybe not though. Maybe it's still not great. Right, it still thinks this is an infinite loop. Right, okay, whatever. Right, so I'm going to test this to see if we need... Yeah, there's two there. There's my personal one, which is normally where I help people, or up until now, because the one for the game is a lot newer, right? So I'm going to add a local variable here, right? Okay, it's not a local variable. I'm going to add a blueprint variable, okay? I'm just going to call it ready for now. We're going to do that. Right, now this always, you'll notice it says repeatedly executes loop body as long as condition is true. Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to drag this in. We're going to get it. We're going to compile. And we're going to set it to true. Right? We're going to delete that. We're going to actually, you know what we're going to do? Well, we're going to test this, right? We're going to move this down a bit. We are going to use this. Except we're going to set this in here. Okay. We're going to save that. And let's see. Okay, Fried, I look forward to your question. We'll see what we can do. Right, I don't know why it's doing that. We can do this another way. Right, to stop that, what we'll do is, let's create a function actually. This isn't the way I wanted to do it, but hey ho. I just wanted to do it in a simple loop like that, but for some reason that thinks it's an infinite loop, which it isn't, but anyway. So we're going to call is pawn, that's if we can spell, is pawn ready, right? And we'll just say pawn ready. In fact, no, we won't, because we want this just to set it, right? So we're going to get ref char. Okay, Fried Movies, enjoy your tea. We're going to get is pawn ready. right? Then we're going to branch. Then we're going to go here. And we're going to branch. Right, so we're only going to do this if the player pawn is ready. And if it disables the player, right, what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, we don't need to say anything. All we need to do is go back to our event graph, grab this, copy this, go back to our is pawn ready and paste it in here. Okay. And that'll be that. And then after that, we just clear the timer, which we haven't named yet. Clear timer by function name and is pawn ready. So we say is pawn ready. Then this goes straight into here. Okay. Then we're going to have to start this. So we're going to go back. I'm not going to fluff about this while loop, right? If it doesn't want to work, it doesn't want to work. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Right, this is just as legitimate a way to do it as anything else. So if it disables the player, we set timer by function name, right, and we'll do 0.05 looping is pawn ready, and that's it. Okay, so basically we set up a reference to our pawn. If our blueprint disables the player, we don't need this. We start this timer running this function. This function basically says, is the pawn ready? If it's true, we check, do we disable the player? If it's false, we just clear the timer. We don't run this anymore, we just stop it. If it's true, we disable the input and do the same. Okay? So, There we go. This isn't all complete yet, but this is going to give you a quick idea of what's going on here. Okay, the important thing here is that our character can't get up at this point, okay? Because we have basically disabled input. Okay, so you can see that I can't get up. Right, I'm trying to hit buttons here, and she won't get up. Okay, now at this point, she should be talking. Okay? She should be giving messages to, well, basically not messages. It should be bringing up text widgets. Okay? Now, as I said, I need to rebuild this, but I needed to get this first part working first. Don't worry about that bad size. That's to do with the fact that it doesn't really know where the scenery is, right? But we now know that this is working, okay? Because it has definitely stopped that. Now, what we want to know now is right, we're going to delete this because we've got a better way of doing this. We basically say has tags, right? And we just say player. Okay, now this isn't doing anything yet, right? As I said, I am just basically, now I believe this was my colleague basically trying to stop the player moving, you know, with the walk speed and stuff like that, right? But we've successfully done that now, right? With our little function, right? To say, is pawn ready? Okay? So we don't really need this anymore. But what we do need is whether this is getting fired. Right? Now, this is the thing that should fire this, even though I don't know what it is. Right? Now, the interesting thing, I think, yeah, okay. Okay. I'm going to check first to see if this gets fired, right? Because we might have to check after the fact. Right? Because sometimes when you load stuff in and the player is actually, well, it looks like it does. So that's a good thing. Right? Now, that variable I deleted, it was maybe not such a great idea to delete it. Okay? But what we're going to do here is we're going to call this remove timer, okay? In the short term, we've got a lot to do yet, right? We've got a whole load of stuff to do. Remove timer. Now, I believe this is going to get us our messages on the screen, okay? So we're going to have a go at that. Right. We're going to disable that breakpoint, right? And we're going to add this breakpoint. Right now, this is where I think this is not great. Right, because this is just constantly firing. Right, so we're going to take a check on this again. I think you guys can hear music here, can't you? Can you? Can you guys hear music? Or maybe I've killed it. No, the music should be on the sequence, not... Anyway, we'll not worry about that. Right. So, is she going to do anything? Apparently not. Okay. Well, that's fine. We're going to stop that. I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to resume that. Now, none of this makes any sense, right? You can see he's got some of the oars animation done, but he's not quite done the other thing yet. Right, is she going to talk this time? That is the question. Apparently not. Not to worry. Let's have a look at things. Yeah. This is just not good. Okay. This is just not good at all. It's Right, I'm going to have to change all this. Right. Okay, so the issue here is there's all of this logic, and all it does is decide if there's more than one message that it's going to play, right? Now, basically, this is not extendable. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into being extendable. We're going to turn it into the fact that you can actually add as many messages as you want, right? And it'll flip through all the messages as many times as it needs to, and that'll be that, right? So we're going to get rid of all of this, right? So we should be able to, we're not going to use timers because he was using a timeline for opacity. So I've actually changed it to be an actual animation in the widget, right? So we're going to get it to control it. We're only going to use one widget, and then we'll fade it out, fade it in as we require, okay? But we have to do a little bit of preliminary work first, because, and I've already basically moved all of this into its own discussion folder, okay? I've now created a struct, which I haven't filled out yet because I wanted to wait for this stream to do it with you guys to show you my thinking on it. Then I've created a data table which is going to store all of our messages. Now I actually might go for a string table here, okay? Let me create a string table, right? And we'll work between the two. We might actually, so we'll call this ST self discussion. Right, and we'll have a look at the differences, okay? We might use a combination of the data table that's going to give us keys to this. Now, the benefit of using this is it's easily localized, right? It's easily localized, so we can muck about with this. And we can easily create different languages, okay? So, with that in mind, I'm going to have a quick break, guys. So, if you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe, especially if you haven't already. You can hit like if you have subscribed already, but hit them both. No, don't hit them both, because if you've subscribed, that will unsubscribe you. Right, anyway, check out the description for links to Discord, my personal Discord, the game Discord, my Patreon, and my previous game on Steam, which is on sale for $1. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere, folks. Right, guys, we are back. Right. Who never said that there was no background music? Who never told me? Right, anyway. So, we're going to have a look at our two options here, right? What we've got is we need to build our struct. Okay? So, we're going to give this... Actually, no we won't. We'll just start. Right? And we'll put order. Right? Now, I might make a mess of this. There's a couple of ways we can do this. Order, text, or let's call it message, right? Just to kind of differentiate it from actually text, right? And then what we'll do is we'll future-proof it by adding VO duration, and we'll say in seconds. Okay, and that is going to be a float. Okay. Now, we could do this a couple of ways. We could add we could say like message number, right? But probably this is not what we want. We want let's just do this, and then if we need to fix it, we'll fix it, okay? So I'm just going to make that, I'm pretty sure it's a name, and we're going to add it to the top. Okay, so we'll save that. Now, what we're... Okay, right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into here and we're going to add a message, right? So we've got our row name. We can make that one. As I said, we can mess around with this. One. And order shouldn't be a boolean. Right, so order should be an integer. There we go. Right. Right, now we're not going to fill in our VO duration in seconds. right? But what we are going to do, just for a laugh, is we're going to go in here and we're going to copy this. And we're going to paste it in there. Now, that's just given us another issue, right? That we need we're going to say VOQ, and this is going to be the actual sound cue. So we're going to say sound cue, right? So we can select the sound cue. Okay. Now, probably we don't need to put this, right? Because we can get the length of this when we actually play it or load it or whatever, right? But it's handy to have. Right, we can mess about with this later. So, we're going to go back here, right? This is going to be order 1, right? And what we can do is we can leave this, right? Because we can actually do it so we don't need to do anything with this, right? We can just load this off the data table once, right? But this is going to be message number 1 still, right? But the order, it's going to be order 2, and then we're going to have a new message, okay? Now, I need to find out what this other message is. Now, you'll notice here, this has got line 2, and it's, I don't know what it is. And it's got this next line blueprint. What? Right, see, this is the part I was saying that, you know, my colleagues made mistakes here, right? But I'm not going to criticise him for it because he's a designer. And he would be able to, if I was to make a level, he would be doing the same with my level design, right? He'd be picking it apart, right? So that's fine. I'm not going to make a big deal of that. Right, anyway, so I'm going to see if I can find the other text anywhere. This second line thing, what on earth is it? And where does it come from? So let's have a look. Okay. So is it anywhere else? Now, I can only assume now that no. So in text, right? And it's this, must be in here, next line BP. Oh, I don't get it. Right, so none of this makes any kind of sense. So this next line BP, the question is, what the heck is it? Alright. Well, at least he shows us what it is. Right, so let's see if we can actually find out what it is. Right, because it should show up here when we press play. Or we should see what the next line is or whatever. So this, I believe, is the one we want. Right? But we're going to change it so that it reads it from the data table. So let's... This is one of them. This is definitely one of them. Right, so I'm going to say that's the first. Except it's not the text from the first. Right. That's the first one. This is the first one. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that. Right? So if we go into here, click on that. This is the first one. Okay. Right, so we're going to work off two. Okay, so I'm going to have to press play again because we don't have, I don't know where the other ones are, right? I've got no idea. Right, so this is the first one. And it's not that one. This is the second one, I believe. I'll do this anyway, right? We'll stop that for now. That's fine. Paste that. paste that, hit return. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll do the third, right? And that'll be, because I know that the first one does 3, right? And this is the 3 that it does. So we'll just quickly do the last one and then we'll get working on it, right? So that's first one. And that's, this is it. This is the third one. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to stop this. We're going to add it. Right, it doesn't really matter about the row name because we can't have these the same, so we can't really do it like that, right? I'm just doing it as you would a database table, okay? Where you, this is basically the foreign key, right? And the primary key is, if you any of you guys understand SQL, and yeah, so the primary key is going to be in the actual blueprint, and these are the foreign keys, right? So yeah, that's the way I'm looking at it at the moment. So we do that, we get that, okay? And there we go. So we come back to here. Okay. We've got current widget, right? And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start gradually deleting these as we no longer need them. But what we're going to do is we're going to say message we're going to say DT message underscore number. Now we might also set this to random so that it can play like a random thing while she's walking through the woods or something like that, right? And we're going to say instance editable. Okay. So on our begin play, what we're going to do is we're going to create are we? Are we? Or are we not? Yeah, let's do it like this first, right? We'll just call it messages, right? And that's going to be struct self discussion. And it's going to be an array, right? So our next thing we're going to do is get data table row names. For each. data table, get data table row. So we just want to loop through all of these, okay? And our data table is going to be not that, self discussion table. We're going to break that, and then we're going to basically compare this. We're going to say equals that. Hi Screen Apple, how you doing? Day 51. We're going to branch off of that. Right. That's all good. And if that's true, we're just going to go here, get messages, and then we're going to say add unique. Okay. Right. I'm going to save that. Then basically this is going to go in here. Now I'm going to show you this in a second, okay? What the actual result of this is. Now we could put this in a little function just to be cool about it, but to tidy it up, like we could just say basically load messages or something, and that would be fine. But we do want to have a look at this, right? And we've got this thing, and then what we'll do is we'll say message number 1. Now this doesn't need to be a number. But we're going to have a look at this. Okay. So we should be able to see our messages. Right, here's our messages. Okay, now when we complete this, we should have 3 messages in here with our 3 different messages. Okay. And then all we need to do is loop around them, right, and basically tell the widget to fade out, load up the next text, fade back in again. Fade out, load up the next text, fade in again. Right, so this should be really, actually pretty cool. Or at least, at worst, it should work. Right, so apparently, right, this hasn't ran. Or at least it hasn't loaded up. There, we haven't actually, doofus. That's not going to work. So we're going to save that, right? We're going to press play. Now, none of the other ones are going to have anything in here, right? Because we've not basically got the number. Now you can see now this has got the 3 different things. Now question is, why has it got four elements? This has always been my favourite spot. Blah blah blah. Speaking of cis, look at that. Then we've got it should be very due, blah blah blah. And what's in this one? Nothing. Okay, need to check that out. Right, so yeah, we're actually looking at the actual game for a change. Where was our DT? Okay, that's fine. We can fix that. All I need to do here, right, is before we do this, right, we get our messages and we press clear. Now we could in theory not load these up, right? We could do it on the first time they I'm not ready to sit back and look at these things yet, Screen Apple. I'm kind of working on the code, and really it kind of stops me doing code, because obviously this has to play every single blooming time, right, while I'm doing this, right? But it's not finished yet, because you'll notice the guys on the ship, they don't actually row, even though I know Kent's going to work on that, obviously. And there's a couple of other little things, right? Now I know for a fact as well he's got things in mind where, like, when she's watching, I'm not too happy. It's not clear enough for me. Right, to me there's just a bit too much fog. Right, I get it, it's snowing and that, but you know, they could maybe start the snow or have the snow a little bit less or something, I don't know. And you can't really make this out either. It's, as I said, there's too much of that just white on the screen. And I don't mean the blobs of white being the snow, I mean just like... Right, so she's going to come up here. I'm going to have to do that. Yeah, there's fire torches. Right, so now we're correct messages, right? We've got 3 messages. Okay? So, let's get this doing something, shall we? What? What's up? What's the oh my god for? I remember you guys were watching the other night when I was doing the sit down and stuff. Well, this is what the sit down was for, right? So that she starts the game sitting down. and then you can stand up once everything's done, type of thing. I've got, you know what I've got? I've got inkling just to delete that whole thing. Apart from this, because this actually... Can you guys hear the music, by the way? Right, we're going to delete that. Let me know if you guys can... Right, I'll stick the music on at the end, right? Let's see. Let's see if we can stick the music back on. Right, now. We're going to have to play it. We're going to have to copy it. And we're going to have to say, is pawn ready? Right, and we're going to have to put it here. Because we don't want it playing for everything. I'm going to paste that in there. Right. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is nothing. But it was actually playing music last night, but I don't know where it is. Right, this basically can go. There was music playing. But, as I said... that's the wrong thing. Right, we're going to delete that. We don't need that anymore. I can save that. Is it this? Yep, we can delete that. Right. There was a play sound. So we're going to try and put it back in. So we're going to say play. Okay, we're going to try and type it properly. Play sound 2D. Now, this is like a UE thing because it's like over all music. Right? Now, it did have something here, but you'll notice that this is actually empty. Right? Now, if we get the ref char and say game instance, right? Then we say audio settings. This was all set up by me in the background, right? Probably before you guys were watching, where I was setting up the game instance and all the audio, and so you can change audio settings and stuff, right? So basically, we've got the music in the master, and all we actually want to do here is like multiply music times master. Then this basically goes in here. Right, now I'm probably going to have to set this up as defaults and stuff, right? When you go to the menu, obviously it's going to work, but if this comes out at 0, it's still not going to play the music, right? But anyway, we can deal with that in a minute. Right. So that's that. We do need the music. I don't know what music is. Right, I'm sure there's lots of music. I don't know where to find it. Guessing in audio. I'm guessing in Viking music. I don't know what this was called. Right, I would have to listen to these, but I'm going to put something in for you guys, right? Because I'm really nice like that. Has he made this a sound cue or what? No, he's made this some silly sound bass, hasn't he? Right, I've got no idea what one this should be. Wait a minute. No, it's not. Thought that looked a bit Viking-y there, but obviously not. Right, sod that. Right. What we're going to do... Ah, oh, darn it. That's that side button again, guys. Right, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to drag that. Okay. There we go. Right. So you guys maybe still not hear anything. Right, so I'll put a breakpoint here and I'll find out. In fact, to tell you what we'll do. What we'll do is we shall break this. Right, and I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Right, so I don't blast your eardrums out. We'll save that. Does it work on MP3? No, but you would just I don't think it does. No, I don't think it does. But you just go into like Audacity and change it to a wave file or a whatever that does work. Right, now it isn't a UI sound, so I don't know if that cuts the bit rate or some weird thing that saves you something. Don't know. But let me know if you guys hear music. Right, do you guys hear music there? Right, I don't know what the original one, or I don't know what the first one is supposed to play, right? But we're not going to worry about that. Ah, well, never mind. Never mind, we'll worry about it later. I mean, to me, it shouldn't be in here anyway. Right, and I might have. I don't know. Right, not to worry. We're not concerned by that at the moment. Right, so delay time, we could use that, right? Because that's something that. How much has he got on this? Nothing. He's got a display time, but he ain't got a delay time. Okay? So basically there's something weird going on. I'm going to add a delay time in here, right? I'm going to make it... It's basically going to be for how long the sequence is, right? So that when you've got control back of your character, right? It's going to... Well, when it disables the character, in fact. Well, anyway. So, what I actually can do is, if I look at this cinematic intro, right? Is it going to tell me how long it is? Browse to asset. Right. How long is this? So it's 1484 frames, right? So if we divide that by 30, right, we get 50 seconds. Does that intro really last for 50 seconds? Or does the camera cut out before that? Yeah, I'm thinking the camera cuts out before that. Oh, maybe not. It's really, maybe. It does the fade thing. Do you guys think that's 50 seconds? I suppose we could time it. Right. Give me a second, guys. Timer. Right. We don't want a... Yeah, we want a stopwatch. Right. Press play. Right, let's see how this goes. This might well be 50 seconds, right? Because we're only on, well, we're already up to 20 seconds. Right, we're on 43. Yeah, it is 51 seconds. We really want to do a mod notify thing here though. Right. So what we want to do, yeah, I want a little bit of a more than that, right? So that it doesn't jump straight into the thing. Okay, so we're going to, you see, I think this start blueprint should actually be a blueprint on its own, right? And it's just showing messages one actually doesn't really need, because it shouldn't have a hover on it, right? It shouldn't have a begin overlap, right? It's because you're in a start, right? You're already overlapping. You already know you're overlapping, right? So it kind of doesn't make any sense. But hey ho, we'll go with it the way it was originally done. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop that. We're going to put 55. Right, we can fire this off at a later date, right? And we're going to write a custom event, if I can type properly for a second. And we're going to say start messages. Sounds good to me. Okay. And again, we're basically going to get to complete. Hi Tarkov Mike, how you doing, bud? Then we're going to say, right, we're going to say messages. We're going to get messages. We're not setting messages, we're getting messages. Get the bleeding messages, will you? And then we'll say length. Okay. The length is greater than 0, then branch okay. Is it a separate vid? Hey Stormrun, hey Tarkov, hey everybody, hey regular guys. It's all happening now. Right, so we're checking if we've got any messages. Let me press play in a minute, okay? I'm just going to finish this little bit and then I'll press play. We're going to set timer by function name. Then I believe we called it start messages. Except I'm going to call it show messages. Because it's not really start, we're going to show it, right? And our time here is going to be the delay time. We're not going to loop. We're not going to do that. And that is going to fire this, which is going to be called show messages. Okay. So what we're hoping for here, right, is this to get fired at the end of our animation. So we can press play now. Right, should break. There we go. Right, see, I wasn't interested in that. I was only interested in the thing it would break, which was absolutely perfect. Right? So take that, haters. You like your fancy graphics, I like my fancy logic. Right, so next thing is we're going to create a widget. Create widget. create widget, and our widget is going to be a self-discussion widget. And you know what? We'll probably do this in begin play, right? It would keep it cleaner. So let's do that. Right, so we're going to create it, right? We're going to save it. And then what we're going to do is I created a thing earlier, which is basically a reference to it so that we can always reference it. And it's no problem. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to do that here because that's where it makes sense, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's a start message system or a normal message system, we still want that reference, right? I should have taken a screenshot from last night to show you what the animation, this blueprint looked like before, and then what it ended up looking like. Just as a little comparison for you guys, but unfortunately, I didn't do that. I could take a screenshot from actually, if you look earlier in the stream, if you guys go back, you'll see the original and what it looked like and what it looks like now. Now, we have got a lot more setup, right? But it's because we needed more setup, right? We haven't basically just turned, you'll notice that it's all just do this, do this, do this, do this. There's actually not an awful lot of logic there. That's just adding messages from our data table now, and that is just basically starting our timer. Now, this probably doesn't even need to be here, right? Because we could set up in the sequence that it basically runs this itself, you know, so it just fires this. But hey ho, not to worry. Right, so we have our message. So what we can do is we can say current widget, current widget, and I believe it's I don't know what it is. I'm going to open it and find it. Right. Don't like. We're going to say. No, we're not going to do that. Right. Forget that idea. That was stupid. Let's try that again, shall we? Right. We're going to write a custom event. That's what we're going to do. Custom event. So we're basically just going to tell it to set itself up, right? We're not going to set it up in that other blueprint. We're just going to tell it what the text should be, right? So we're just going to say set message text. Okay? Then we're going to add an input, and that's going to be message, and that's going to be a string, and that's going to be a save, right? And then we're just going to go in here, get that, then we're just going to say set text, right? And that's going to be that. And that always does that, just to be really annoying. Okay. Now, we are going to have to do a couple of things here, but we're good. We're just going to do a test on it, okay? So that's going to take care of that. We're going to go back to here. Right? We're going to say let's just show the blooming first one, shall we? So that you guys can see what we're trying to achieve here. Set message text. Okay. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to do get messages, right? And then we're going to do for each loop. Right, now we can't really do a delay on this. So we are kind of going to do a loop, but we're going to be sneaky about it probably. But I want something up on the screen just to give you guys an idea. Okay, so we're going to do break. And we're going to put message. Then we're going to do that. Right? Then we're going to say fade in. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to play an animation forward. I've set that up in the widget, right? Now, probably I don't want this to loop, right? But we'll worry about that in a while. I just want to see it bloody showing something, right? So you get to see the cut screen again. Right, going well. If you're enjoying it, if you're enjoying things here, guys, by the way, if you haven't subscribed already, please hit that button. It helps a lot. Right, so hopefully we're going to see something. Right, yeah, we are going to add animations on the characters. It's just not all been done yet. Just give us, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. Right, so that's crap. Oh, I'm an idiot. I am a bloomin' idiot. Right. Press stop. Add to viewport. That would be a brilliant idea, wouldn't it? Who'd have ever thought of that? to viewport. This is it's kind of the point of devlogs, so that you see things gradually taking shape. Right? You can see things happening. You can see like little changes going on all the time, every day, twice a day, and then stuff going on in the background as well. Right? Basically when I do stuff in between streams, there's also stuff getting developed, right? So like for example last night when I done the first person camera and stuff, so you guys so there's our thing right now. It shouldn't be visible to start with, so I can fix that. So I'm going to stop that for now. So I think what we'll do is we'll do that. We'll not make it visible here. I might move this back to here for testing purposes because I might want to see it, because I obviously don't want to wait on this thing coming up every single time, right? Doing the sequence. So we will most likely move it for testing purposes, but for this we'll do that, right? Wait a minute. There's something I want to do first. Stop. Right, we want to do the fade out, right? Because we don't want it visible to start with, right? So if I say, the way I've done this is you just say fade. You just say fade in, right? But you do it in reverse. And that basically does it for you. Right, because it's not added to the viewport, then we're not going to see that happening, hopefully, right? And then this should be all super smooth, and user going to probably not go wow again, but hopefully it'll be slick. Alright, so all those guys are obviously going to be rowing and stuff, and then there'll be a guy up the front who's giving the orders, pointing forward or some crap, and I'm doing the actions here as if you can see me, but obviously you can't. But, well, if I turned on my webcam you would see me, but I'm not going to do that. Right. So, if we do the old step over nonsense, well, actually if I do that you won't see it fading in, so I'm just going to press resume and hope for the best. There we go. But you'll notice our text is nothing. Not a good sign. I'll have to do some testing on that. But let's call it a day there, guys. I've enjoyed your company. The usual guys here. Great to see you here. A few new people talking and stuff, which is excellent. If you've enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe, guys. I'll be back at 8 PM tonight with some more. Probably I'll be pretty much, well, it depends how much enthusiasm I've got, but I'll be probably working on this during the break, so you will see this all working tonight, hopefully. Check out the description for links to my Discord, links to the game Discord, my Patreon, where you can support the channel for as little as a couple of bucks, or even if that's too much, you can check out my previous game on Steam where it's only $1 and you get a game. So, thank you guys for watching. See you tonight, 8 PM Central. Bye bye for now.